everybody. We just got done watching Scream 4. This is our first movie
review,
movie review, pretty much. And what we're going to talk about is like why we think it is good or why we think it is bad, everything. And you know, this is a spoiler, so if you don't want to know what happens, just don't watch it.
Let's do like ratings.
I'm going to do two types of ratings. Ratings from experience of like maybe if it's a series or if it like it's tied emotionally to me, and rating as just a movie in general. As a movie in general, it's kind of funny these days. People actually starting to like horror and comedy being mixed, and that was never really like, unless it's like slight comedy, like for example Paranormal Activity when Mika's funny little quotes and stuff in it.
But that's because what I was telling you before, you can't do serial killers without it being funny, because it's not scary. It's not scary whatsoever.
Yeah,
oh, guy running around with a knife on stab me in the back.
In a weird ghost outfit, and everybody that dies has fake purple goo coming out of their necks, and
not to mention that everybody has worn that costume. You've seen that face so many times. There's no possible way that face can continue being scary. It is now a joke.
Right, it is a kind of a joke. And I mean, that was what I was, second grade of Halloween. That was my costume. Alright, so I guess the general rating, I would have to give it a 5.9. Because, first of all, it had pretty good actors in it. Like, funny people.
I'll give you that.
Courtney Cox, Neve Campbell. It had Emma Roberts. It had Lucy Hale.
Don't talk about the cast. Get to the point.
It had all those good people in it. And Hayden Panettiere.
The acting was good.
The acting was pretty good throughout the movie. You're just like, wait, if it's supposed to be tied back to the original, because they're trying to make it original, but they're trying to make like the remake and make it all scary and stuff, then maybe that's the killer, or maybe that's the boyfriend.
It
kept you guessing.
You couldn't predict it. Now, I'm a predictor. I can watch a scary movie and predict it like that. Like, I'm really
She did.
Good
She immediately thought it was one of the second cops. And I kind of thought that too. I was like, well, she'd have connections with everything, so seeing that she's a cop and she has to be places, she has the right to be places. And then we started thinking, well, maybe it's this stupid boyfriend that, like, you know, isn't really in the thing. And then all these people started kind of dying off, and you're like, well, wait a second, and
it can't be this person.
It can't be that person. And then it ends up being freaking Emma Roberts in the very end.
So, if you're trying to kill somebody and you stab them, everybody knows it's gonna take more than one stab to make sure somebody's dead. If you want somebody dead, you need to stab them like 5 times. And especially if you're blaming it on somebody else. What's the harm in double checking? Seriously, what's the harm in double checking?
In Zombieland, you have to, you know, redo it. You have to kill the person twice.
You gotta make sure.
You gotta make sure.
Gone. This bitch, this bitch gonna stab her one time.
She stabs her one time.
This bitch stabs her one time, and they're like, oh, well, your aunt survived and she's in the ICU. She's like, what?
Well, what she wanted to do, basically the whole story was, I'm just going to explain a little bit.
No.
Basically what happened is, you know, this is the 4th movie, and Sydney, she, from the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd movie, she was Sydney Prescott, and, you know, her mom had died, and she was pretty famous in this Woodsboro town and everything, and she wrote a book in the 4th movie and all this stuff about her experiences of never being killed, and well, I guess they bring in her random cousin in the 4th movie, like a random ass cousin, like, oh, okay, cool, and her 2 friends end up getting killed, and so she's like, oh, you need to stay with Sydney Prescott, because Sydney Prescott never gets killed for some reason, you'll be safe with her.
Oh no, they call her the Angel of Death.
Angel of Death. So she's pissed off, because she's like, my aunt is getting so much famouser than me, blah blah blah, I'm so tired of this, everybody in my high school, like, knows these people, whatever. So,
living in my aunt's shadow.
I'm living in my aunt's shadow. And she removes the Scream mask, and it's Emma Roberts, and none of it, and the whole theater was like, what? It's her? Really?
Really?
Okay.
Like, okay. So let's see her reasoning.
Let's see her reasoning.
Why did she go through and kill all of her friends, her mother, and half the people in her town?
Because she ended up being just a psycho bitch. She was just crazy. And then she was like, then out of nowhere, she started acting like a crazy person. I hate those movies when you're like, now I'm psycho. She was a killer, and then she stabbed Sydney, and then I'm like about horrifiedly crying, because I'm like, she's dead? Really? She's dead? And then she goes and starts beating herself up to make it look like she didn't kill anybody.
Which was badass. I actually loved her because of that. Like, she ran into a freaking picture frame and stabbed herself in the shoulder. That was the most badass thing I've seen.
Then she jumped onto a glass table, and then she goes and lays next to Sydney and pretend, you know, she's dead. Well, then they're in the ICU, and, you know, what's his face? Courtney Cox's actual husband.
Love Courtney Cox, too. Yeah. She was great.
David or whatever, he comes and he's like, you know, they're in the ICU, and he's like, well, Sydney might make it. She's like, oh, fuck, I have to go and kill this bitch. So then that's how the movie ends. You're just gonna have to go see.
And there was the other one where they were electrocuting her in the head, and she goes, clear. And I'm like, you need to say clear, bitch. Like, come on, give me
Clear,
something.
bitch.
As a person that's never seen the Scream movies before, I give it a 4.5.
Okay.
That is because the things I did like, I like the fact that it made fun of itself.
Yeah.
It took everything that everybody was saying, all the critiques, it was like, oh, you can't do this, it's so played out, so predictable, and they just stabbed those people. That was really interesting in the beginning. They were talking about the horror movie rules and how you have to follow the guidelines. Okay, bad things. I feel like they wanted to do such a big twist at the end. Like, they didn't want their movie to be predictable. So they're like, I wonder, what's the biggest twist that we can do? We can have it be her cousin-niece thing. That's who's
that
killing
randomly
everybody.
came into the whole movie.
Can I just say her whole motivation? I was telling you this earlier when we decided to turn it on. Her whole motivation for killing people, her friends and her family, was jealousy for her aunt's fame. Honey, that's not enough.
Oh, and by the way, if
That's
you're going to go
not
see
enough.
Scream just because you know Kristen Bell and Lucy Hale and the girl, Alicia, what's her name, from Degrassi, if that's the only reason you're going to see it,
They're in the first 3
they're
minutes.
in the first 3 minutes because what the first 3
They're
minutes...
the critiques that they
They're the
go off at
critiques.
the
They're
beginning.
making fun of... There's like a movie called Stab in the Scream, and so they have like 7 Stab movies, and the beginning of the movie is showing a clip from the movie Stab, and then a second movie from the Stab 2 or something, and those are where those girls are coming. So if that's why the only reason why you're going to see it, then whatever.
I was bored with it, to be truly honest. I try to refrain from texting on my phone during movies because it's rude. But
I did the whole time.
Exactly. I just got so bored with it. Like, it just, nothing made sense the way they did things. Okay, so you're framing your boyfriend and saying that he's the evil character, and then the other guy was also conspiring with him, and they both somehow die. How the hell are you going to explain them dying? You got the gun and you shot him, so the first thing that you do, you shoot him in the dick and then shoot him in the head? That doesn't seem very logical, little missy.
My second rating, my second rating for this movie, emotionally, I'd have it to give it a 6.7 because when I was younger, that was pretty much my first scary movie, my favorite scary movie, and that's how I loved the horror, even though it wasn't that scary, but when you're 7 years old, that's pretty scary when people are getting killed. Me and my mom used to go and see those movies in the theater, and then we'd watch them and have scary movie nights, and, you know, I was out for Halloween, and I just loved it, and it just reminded me of my mom, and today was her anniversary of being dead, or 1 year, so I thought it was pretty important, you know, that I did that, and so I give it a 6.7.
Well, so we did it. I did it with her. I did not want to go see this movie.
You didn't? How come you didn't tell me?
Huh?
How come you didn't tell me?
Because I wasn't going to hurt your feelings.
Oh.
So I did not want to go see this movie.
It's okay, I paid for her.
I semi-enjoyed it. I mean, it was funny.
I
laughed in so many places.
Well, then you need to watch the first...
No, I'm not going to watch these movies.
You have to!
You say that was the best one in the whole series.
I liked
that
it.
was a piece of crap.
It wasn't the best one, but I liked it because it was just fun seeing them all come back and seeing all those other characters that I love and all the.
So that's the thing. If you want to go see this movie, you need to see the original few, because then you'll end up like me and you're like, what the fuck? You can relate it back to the movies. They're like, oh, they're doing it exactly like this. And I'm like, well, the only thing that I know of Scream is from, like, Scary Movie 2.
Right.
So, I understood most of it, but, like, some of the small references, like the guy tied up in the chair, I didn't understand
that was significant. That was why I really liked that, because I felt like that was important.
Okay. Also, honey, I'm talking to the niece again, and I'm going to pretend you guys are the niece. Honey, if you're going to, like, be a serial killer and everything, number one, one rule in evil personness, that's what we're going to call it, evil personness, you don't gloat before you kill somebody. Every single time she got to the last minute, she had to explain why she's doing all this and what's going on. And I mean, yeah, that's great for us because now we finally know what's going on in your head. But realistically, no.
Realistically, you wouldn't do that.
Realistically, you would just kill the damn person and move on with your damn life. Like, even
but it's a movie, and
bullshit.
And they gotta give it they gotta give the survivors more time to survive.
So that's the movie review.
That's the movie review. Yay! So thank you for watching it. If I were you, unless you're a big fan of the Scream movies, don't go see it. Unless you, I don't know. I already told you. So if you like it, then go see it. Wow, look at this view.